Welcome back. Now, today marks International Childhood Cancer Day. It aims to raise awareness about the diseases and to support families and children living with cancer. Some parents are anxious as their children return to school amid the COVID-19 outbreak while battling cancer. So to discuss this even further, we're joined now by Cara Noble from the Cancer Association of South Africa. Cara, good to have you. And good morning to you. I mean, let's talk first about, cancer in children before we get to some of the concerns of parents during this pandemic. What are some of the signs that parents need to look out for in terms of childhood cancers?
Thank you so much for having me. I think at this stage there are actually quite a few different signs and symptoms, but if I can give you some more of the more general ones. So, for example, we have some kids that will wake up in the morning with a sudden squint. That could definitely be a sign that something has definitely changed. We have children that are bleeding under the skin, children that are always feeling exhausted, fatigued, weakness. We have a lot of children that suddenly have constant vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, and it's basically a whole lot of signs and symptoms that are not going away. We have children that are presenting with lumps in their glands, in their necks, in their abdomens, in their groin. And so I think really the most important thing for parents to remember is that if something doesn't go away, if you see something, you're like, oh, what's this? I'm not too sure what it is, and it's persistent, and the symptom doesn't change. For example, with brain tumors, we have a lot of children that start having difficulties with vision. Sometimes they will complain their hearing's changed. We even have kids experiencing personality changes due to the growth of tumors in the brain. And so they also start falling around a lot, they're losing their balance. So at the end of the day, you as a parent really know your child best. And this is where we encourage all parents everywhere to use that sixth sense, that instinct that you do have, that you know your child best, and pick up on things when you know something off or feels weird.
And we're having this conversation, Cara, because, I mean, we're seeing that South Africa has the highest, cancer mortality rates, and that begs then the notion that parents need to understand that early detection is quite important.
Yes, definitely. I think if you look internationally, an average child with cancer has about a 70 to 80% positive treatment outcome, which means that they have a very high chance of beating cancer. But if you look into Africa, due to late diagnosis, a lot of the time we're having children presenting at very late stages, which means there's very little that medical professionals can do to assist. And our current recovery rate now is averaging around 50 to 60%, depending on the type of cancer the child has. And this is so sad. But we also have other challenges like poor diet and poverty. We know that a child that's having 3 healthy full meals a day and eating well and doesn't have to worry about if they have access to fresh water or healthy basic food plays a massive difference in a child's recovery rate.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of challenges in South Africa right now for children with cancer, especially in a poverty situation.
And with that being said, I mean, we're currently just in a second wave here when we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and its context and the conversations around a possible third and fourth wave. Do parents have reason to be concerned and to be anxious, really, of their children going back to school at a time like this during a pandemic?
I think definitely. I think it's so difficult. I think there is risk with COVID now in really every area. But with kids, obviously we know the risk is high. And I think you just have to be comfortable with your school system, and you have to just push the same things that we know. It's wearing your mask, it's sanitizing, making sure your child has their own sanitizer as well. And with children with cancer, they would definitely not be going back to school. I think we know in general that an average cancer patient has such a high risk of contracting COVID. Therefore, if you are a parent with a child with cancer, your risk of your child contracting COVID is also very high because they have a weakened immune system, because they are on active treatment to get them better. So it's very important that if you do have a child with cancer, or even if you are a person with cancer yourself, that through this pandemic, that you're definitely much more aware in terms of your exposure, limiting visits, limiting public places, etc. Because we just know the risk of contracting COVID is just so much higher than a person like you or I.
Okay.